Hey everybody, welcome back into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for Snap Judgments. This is going to be the hyperbole episode.
I love hyperbole.
But I think it's justified. We're talking about the wide receivers and a dose of specialists. That's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, joining you here for the podcast after a Wednesday practice for the Buckeyes. Week and a half to go. Another day closer. The Ohio State wide receivers are fill in the blank, Bill.
Hard to ask questions of because there's only so many ways you can say, can you believe how good you are?
That's a good answer. Perm?
Professional question answerers.
Okay.
They don't say anything
Yeah.
that means anything. And you know that they're doing it because they really don't want to talk to us. What they want is to catch footballs and be left alone, which I think is a good thing. Like, this is not, and it continues a tradition that goes back about 9 years now here at Ohio State. The wide receiver room is a work room. Like, it is not a diva wide receiver room, and it's really encouraging that trend continues.
Not a diva room. I'm not sure. I guess that's true.
Yeah.
How long did you say that had been the case?
Since about 2014.
I don't know if that's true.
Mike
Mike Thomas and...
That was the year that Terry McLaurin and Johnny Dixon, Paris Campbell, and Curtis Samuel came to Ohio State, and that's when that room changed.
Okay.
Who are you calling a diva? America? Austin Ward wants to know that you believe that...
I said
the name.
I did say Mike Thomas.
Oh, but who's a diva now?
I didn't think any of them are divas now.
Jupe Mitchell.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
they're grinders. And they're also really talented grinders.
Ponies and grinders.
I agree with what you're saying. I was trying to do the math if that had been true for how long, but certainly that standard from the guys you mentioned, and then KJ Hill after that, and Austin Mack and Benjamin Victor, and
Well, that 2014 year was Devin Smith. I mean, it was Evan Spencer. Like, that was a grinder group of grinders.
Group of grinders. All right, I may have got us too distracted early on away from the point, which is that
Which is correct.
Brian
That's
Hartline,
correct.
has built an incredible wide receivers unit, the best in the country. So I say this is hyperbole, but how could someone be better than what they've built here? I don't think that exists.
It's very odd to me. Like, only one of these guys has really done anything. Like, I know Marvin had 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl. Like, some of that came against the guy who was like supposed to be playing running back. Like, Marvin is really good, but the fact that we just assume they're all going to be great, I think and I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it's right. I mean, I do. I assume that. It's just like a testament to what Brian Hartline has done. Is there any other position group in the country that you can lose Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and you're just like, whatever, they'll be fine?
I think Alabama probably feels that way at
Every position.
Yeah, on defense.
On defense.
That certainly hasn't been the case for their offense, but like assembly line for Alabama linebacker. They lose someone in preseason, and then the next guy becomes an All-American. But that's the same situation for Ohio State with what they built at wide receiver. It is unthinkable that we're not just talking about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, but also that Jameson Williams wasn't good enough to factor into that rotation. I put that in quotes. He could have been, but
Yeah.
you had Jackson Smith and Jigbo right there. You knew what the situation was going to be like to have to split it 4 ways. So I think it's a fair point that you raised, Bill. I mean, Marvin Harrison shooting up on the freaks list and all the hype.
Oh, he's on
coming
the freaks list?
He's on the freaks list.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
that's we may have talked about that before over some beers last week. And then you have the Rose Bowl, and that obviously took it to another stratosphere, and we've seen him perform in the spring game before that. We know what he's capable of and the Hall of Fame genetics and all that. But Emeka Egbuka, it's a limited sample size for him outside of what he did.
He has a larger sample size from last year than Marvin.
Marvin. That's right.
Yeah.
And then from there you're dipping into Julian Fleming trying to overcome injuries. He had another one popping the shoulder back in place. He talked about that again tonight more specifically after the second scrimmage. He still hasn't really had a chance to show that 5-star number 1 player in the country ability yet, thanks to those injuries. And Cameron Babb is dealing with another injury and won't be playing in the first couple games, despite the fact that he's trying to be ready. So there's a lot of unproven stuff there. It's a fair point, Bill, that we're talking about 4 and 5 stars exclusively, really, but not guys outside of Jackson that have put up groundbreaking numbers.
I'm just sitting here as you bring up Cameron Babb, and I'm just absolutely amazed by him as a human being. So I kind of just was like, I can't believe how just good this kid is about all this stuff. Like, I don't know that most people, and by most people I mean nearly 99 out of 100 people, would be able to tolerate the things that he's tolerated. And the fact that if you ask any of these guys about Cam Babb, like the way that they speak about him is not like I've ever heard a player at Ohio State get talked about by his teammates. So it just was I was drifting. I'm trying to think, like, has there ever been anyone that I hear them talk that way about? And Terry McLaurin might be the only
talk
one.
that way about Terry.
Terry McLaurin might be the only one that's close, but I think with Cameron, it's even more than that. And
But yeah, even the way he talks about, like, if I were in his shoes, I'd just be like angry at the world. And he talks about it like, like, well, stuff happens. Like, no, like, yeah, that's true. Stuff does happen. Not all the stuff is supposed to happen to one person. But the way he handles it, I mean, is really impressive. And it just makes you, I think, I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to root for people or not. He's hard. It's hard not to root for him. Like, I really, really hope that moment comes for him this year.
Berm and I have always sort of viewed this from the prism of you want the best for people.
Yeah.
What happens for the jersey color when the game is played, may or may not impact anything. But, I don't – it's going to be a great moment if and when Cameron Babb, I hope it's when, gets out there and catches a first down or a touchdown in the horseshoe. Like, he's deserved that moment. And we've known these people since they were 16, 17, 18-year-olds in some cases. Berm, who knows when they first get their offer. But to watch them develop and mature and knowing the things that he's been through, certainly don't think there's anything wrong with wanting him to have an opportunity that's been put off so many times that it's hard to even comprehend.
Yeah, and it really, I mean, this is a little detour just in this episode of Snap Judgments, but like, I'm just amazed by that sort of resiliency from a 22-year-old kid that, as Bill said, like, everything that could have gone wrong for him in the last 5 years has. Not even 5 years. Shoot. This goes back to his sophomore year of high school. This goes back to his sophomore year of high school. He broke his leg in high school.
Yeah.
As a top recruit, and then had to fight back through that. Like, this has been his entire existence. And there's not a single moment where you see that kid, at least publicly facing, coming out with anything other than a smile and leading the guys in the locker room. And they are truly inspired by him. And I mean, everyone should be. No, we can talk about other stuff now.
Okay, like what?
The Cam Babb moment is over. I mean, I think we can talk about the fact Brian Hartline said that his top 6 guys are pretty well locked in and that any of them can play any position. So all of the talk about, who's going to be the guy opposite Marv? Is it going to be Emeka or Julian? There's no guarantee anyone's going to be anywhere. So I think that's a pretty good thing for Ohio State.
I'm not sure that really applies to Jaden Ballard.
He said all 6.
He also included Xavier Johnson, sort of in lieu of Cam Babb. If Cam was healthy, he would have been there. I thought the Emeka and Julian stuff specifically was interesting because I think a lot of people have sort of thought about them as like an either-or kind of thing. And I guess that's how they kind of got into games last year. I don't know how often they were on the field together. But that's the thing with this room. Like, we've been asking Brian Hartline for 3-4 years, like, is this guy an X? Is he a Z? Is he a slot? And he's like, yes. The answer is always yeah. And it's like, especially with this group, maybe with the exception of Marvin, who you maybe don't want to put in the slot because he's now officially 6'4", by the way.
Oh, did you watch him juke people in that Indiana game a year ago?
I did. And also, he's on the freaks list. But everybody else in the room, I think, has a similar skill set to where you can move them anywhere in the formation and they'll succeed there.
Obviously, we're all here. We're walking around listening to different things. The one guy that I kept hearing the name of as far as they just handled him a little different is Emeka Egbuka. They're like, he does things differently. Yeah. And like Jaden Ballard said, he's different than everyone else. And I don't know if he's just that much more advanced at each of these positions. Everyone's got their preference. Everyone's got the thing they do the best, but he seems to be the one that is most consistent across the board. And that explosion that he has, that opportunity to really be used on the ends, the end around game, the jet sweeps, that type of stuff. I think that allows him and Julian Fleming to be on the field at the same time. Because if you have Julian, who's the clear-cut best blocker of this group out there, and you got Emeka in the slot and Jackson on the outside, things can get really dangerous.
I think what was most interesting to me tonight, outside of 40 minutes with Bradley Robinson, which was very impressive.
Super enlightening kid.
I really, really like talking to Brad Robinson. Super bright kid.
If you're an NIL company out there and you want just someone to add, work for you, Bradley Robinson. Holy moly.
And he does have one deal. You can find him. It's Bill Green, I believe, is the company that he's working for. I'm not sure what exactly it does. It seemed to be related to tractors. I don't know, but he talked about that company for several minutes and the experience of filming that ad because they wanted a 7th-year guy. Great job. He's awesome, by the way.
I mean, Van Wilder Part 3 is coming out, I think, so there's an opportunity there.
He should definitely be in that. I think in the spring, the first couple of weeks, it was like Jaden Ballard, and then kind of hit a dose of reality or setback. I'm not sure what it was, but it hit a pause button for a little bit, and now that's back going in the upward swing for him. And I don't see him as interchangeable at all the 3 spots like Brian Hartline suggested, and I don't think that Jaden Ballard does either. He seemed to indicate that like Z is what he should do, and I think that we would probably agree that sending him on deep routes and letting him do Devin Smith things is probably the best role for him. But Brian Hartline said where he is now is where he thought he would be at the end of this year. So he's back ahead of the learning curve. That, who knows how that plays into what we were seeing in spring and all the rest. But you can also see the way he's handling conversation, talking about the game, more maturity coming out of him, because he's one of the quietest people
he is.
that I've ever seen in this building.
Yeah.
And this is a place where you can't really survive like that. If you're not an alpha, it's alpha among alphas to be a captain here, and all the other guys are still extremely high achievers, and you need to be able to find that voice. Usually, if you don't have that and you feel out of place and you can't talk and hold your own, you're not going to make it. I think to me, I take something out of that I could hear him speak, and he was able to put together some descriptive things about the way he was working and playing that resonates. Maybe just not that he's the best to do it, but that he's certainly improved at it.
I think maybe the reality of having now a group sort of below him, because Brian Hartline's going to do what he does every year. A guy like Jaden Ballard shows up, there's no expectation of him to play right away. You can kind of grow into that role, maybe be a little quieter. And as you get older in the program, all of a sudden take a peek behind you, and like here comes Keon Grays and Caleb Brown and Caleb Burton and Kojo Antwi. And I think that lights a fire under most people. So I'm not surprised that it's happened for him. But I'm curious to see what he does for this offense. Because there's not Jackson's incredible, and I think Emeka's going to be great, and Marvin's going to be great too. They're all tremendous athletes. But Jaden and I think Julian are burners to another level. And if you have that sort of vertical threat, that speed threat to go along with everything that Jackson can do to terrorize defense in the middle of the field, it's pretty scary.
I was just struck by the fact that Jaden, as you said, is not a kid that wants to talk. And that was pretty clear. He still doesn't want to be dealing with the media. This is the first time he's been put out here in this type of situation. And you can tell he's still not really comfortable with it. My favorite thing is watching, I consider myself a observer of people, right? Mm-hmm. And watching people try to get a story out of him that wasn't there.
That happens a lot.
About people asking him about Devin Smith and the connection from same high school. He's now wearing number 9. Tell us about what you know about Devin Smith. He's like, I don't know anything about Devin Smith. You didn't watch him? Nope. Why not? I played basketball. I didn't watch football. And it's just fun to watch.
But that part is also not true. So he just didn't want to do it, because I asked him about that in the spring. He's like, yeah, I saw Devin Smith.
So maybe he lied to you.
No, he was sitting there thinking to himself, man, Austin already wrote
this story. Why am I doing it again? Just go read that somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, he knows about it.
Sure, he knows about it. I just don't think that people want to believe that all these great football players, great athletes grew up like fans did, stuck in front of the TV every weekend watching, oh, this is my hero. That's not how real life is. When kids that are that level of athlete are actually out playing football on the weekends, or
becoming better athletes,
out in AAU tournaments, they're not watching this stuff, so they don't really see it. Plus, it was 9 years ago.
That was 9 years ago.
He was 10 years old, so it's not like a situation where you have to. It's not like it was yesterday. But anyway,
we're talking a lot about the 2014 wide receivers.
What else is new?
They won a national title that year.
Is that right?
It's on the wall over there.
Well, let me throw this in.
Sure, throw this in
before we talk about the last thing.
What's the last thing?
Bill brought this up in the year, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is the first time I've heard him say it explicitly. Not even in the hour in Indy. None of the rest. We know that their goals are extremely high, but he said, after what they've done, they haven't won a national championship since 2014. He said they haven't won a natty, and anything less than that to him, he said, is not acceptable. And
agree.
I don't, I know that that's an incredibly high bar to set, and not even a realistic or fair one for a program, but it does tell you the mindset of the second, third year, fourth year, fifth year players in this program about what they've missed and what they haven't accomplished yet.
Yeah. But I think that it ties into something that Xavier Johnson said, which is he said, this is the closest Ohio State team he's been on. The camaraderie, the chemistry on this team is different, and he said, than the previous 4 years he's been here. So that is comforting, I think, to Ohio State fans, and certainly something that you should expect. My expectation is that they should win a national championship, but the Jackson Smith and Jigba should be the first Biletnikoff winner from Ohio State since 1995. So just to throw a couple extra piles on the expectation heap,
Sure.
like he better win that darn award.
Just wait till bold predictions later in the week.
Yeah.
This guy's giving out trophies to everybody.
Freaky Friday is coming,
Do you know
folks.
that in 1995, the last time Ohio State won a Biletnikoff award? We're going to take a little history lesson here, America.
That's been this America. That's been this whole episode. You already know that.
Eddie George won the Heisman and the Doak Walker, of course. Orlando Pace won the Outland. Terry Glenn won the Biletnikoff. I mean, they did it all at once.
And they beat Notre Dame.
What did the team do?
They lost to Michigan, 31-23, as to Shamanga Biakabutuka ran for 313 yards against them and embarrassed the defense in a way that hadn't happened yet again until last November.
Last year, yeah.
Okay.
When Nassan Haskins went full Biakabutuka mode.
So anyway, last thing for me is Julian Fleming. I'm telling you, I just see a different guy when you talk to him. That's a kid who you knew the expectation coming in, the number one player in the country, as you said earlier. That expectation was too high. Like, we knew in high school he was not playing a traditional wide receiver role in offense. He had to develop. The injury slowed him down. And I'm telling you, I just see a different maturity level out of him. And as long as he stays healthy, I think you're going to see him be what people have expected him to be.
Parker Fleming was reading his Twitter mentions today.
Yeah, thank you, America.
Good.
Congratulations.
Shout out to y'all.
To the few of you who took our advice. He was aware. I started asking him a question about the punt returner situation, and he said, "Where's Berm? Where's Berm?"
You're affecting change, and that's what's important,
That's right.
folks.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Active participation in your democracy.
Then afterwards, Parker still sought out Berm, and I think they had about a 25-minute conversation over here. It was the hard sell that Cameron Martinez must
No
return
hard sell.
punts.
My hard sell, and if we're going to just completely derail here, I want
that's
to
what
know.
we do.
I want to know, in a program like this, when you have 85 of the best football players in America, when you have players like Cade Stover or Cameron Martinez, is there a moment when you, as a coach, realize we're doing too much to this person, and eventually they're going to stop buying in and give up? And I think the answer to that clearly is yes. But I just think it speaks volumes about guys like Cade Stover and Cam Martinez that to this juncture, that hasn't even come close to happening. One thing that Parker Fleming did say, all Cam wants to do is get on the field. He wants to play. And they know what he can do with the ball in his hands. And trust me, America, they will deploy him as a punt returner at some point. The question is, how often? When? Is it in tandem with Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Did he watch the video, though?
He said that he has heard of the 9-minute touchdown tape, but he has not watched it.
Wow.
He should watch it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I emailed it, the link.
Well, he was.
I faxed him the link.
They tweeted it to him. Well, that was the problem.
Fax it right
He just heard about it and read about it, but he didn't get to see it because you used a fax, which it's not 1995 anymore. America.
All right.
Let's get rid of the fax machine.
This is the end of our show.
Bill, did you have anything else? I just asked Berm about Cameron Martinez. So.
No, I was going to say it was the end of the fax machine, but you already hit that. So
Good. I read your mind. This has been another episode of Snap Judgments. It's on the podcast. We have the podcast daily coming tomorrow. We have no media availability. That's a programming note that you should be aware of. We won't be back in here until Tuesday. So a few days without Snap Judgments. We hope that you miss us, but there'll be a lot of other content that we have coming your way in the meantime, there and at ohiostate.rivals.com. That's Bill Berm. I'm Austin. We'll see you there.